Hello, everyone. Welcome to Google Plus Week. I'm Dan McDermott, your host. Joining me from Utah, West Jordan, is Sheila Dubois. Welcome, Sheila. How are you?
Doing great, thank you.
We have an audio issue, as you probably just detected, folks, in the Hangout. Alan is joining us from New York. Welcome, Alan.
Hey, Dan.
So, I just want to briefly touch on just one thing. It's September 11th, the 14th anniversary of 9/11, and one thing I noticed there was a lot of stuff, and I'm sure everyone's seen it. I mean, a lot of various posts of various sorts. One thing is really interesting is Ari Fleischer, who was the spokesman for President George W. Bush, did sort of a TikTok, they call it, and he tweeted it. Um, it's really a compelling read, a gripping, interesting behind the scenes what it was like to be with the president the night before, getting ready to do the school thing and some stuff. As it happened, he tweeted it out. I found that really something else, and so I just wanted to put that out there. It's obviously a very sober day for all of us each year, and I had two 19-year-olds hanging out with each other here today, and they were 5 when it happened. So their whole life has been shaped by that. They don't know any time before that. It's a different perspective. But anyway, so on Google Plus Week, we have our first story is about Twitter and their use of Hangouts. I guess is one way that the same way that Google used it. It sort of came from their internal method of doing video conferencing for teams in various places to communicate. So what's the story there, Alan?
It's pretty much exactly what it says. Like lots and lots of other companies around the world, Twitter's discovered that using Google Hangouts and the video Hangouts is a great way for teams to communicate with each other. Um, this is not a huge surprise. What I think it points out the most to me is that Twitter's not a collaborative thing. It's not really a, a social communication tool because they're not using it themselves. Um, but that Hangouts is a really, really good social system. And if you've got the systems in place, use it. And Google's providing this for free or low charge, really.
Is it we've seen all sorts of different like Spreecast and there's Periscope but a lot of those are some are collaborative, some are um, mainly a broadcasting tool like Periscope and Meerkat, right? With some interaction, but mainly a one-way thing. I don't know if there's anything. I guess Skype would be the main competitor.
Skype is the main competitor, and
That's kind of the
Skype
only
has
two options for sort of having a meeting. You
There
know,
are others, but I mean, for a long time there were professional video conferencing systems, which were incredibly expensive. Google Hangouts is only expensive. I mean, you can, if you buy the setup, and it's free to use. Skype, their price has been dropping bit by bit over time because they've been going up against Google's free service. So, I think this shows really, again, the power of tools like this to help teams work with each other. There are assorted other tools that are out there, but they're mostly focused on that broadcast angle. And I think Google, when they started Hangouts, wasn't focused on that. They got dragged into it. And now we kind of have this weird dichotomy between, what YouTube is doing and what the Hangouts team is otherwise offering. And I think it's regrettable that we've got such a split there. But I think it's definitely proven that Hangouts are a really, really viable technology.
and just to put emphasis on what you're saying about how much it used to cost, I remember in about '93, I I had a computer game. I used to have a computer game programming camp, and the kids would come and learn how to program a computer game. It was tic tac toe, but they would be able to do it. They would actually make a tic tac toe from start to finish. Um, and Harry Forsheimer from Silicon Graphics did a conference call, and he was an on-set advisor for Jurassic Park for the movie. And he was thinking about, they had some kind of box. There was a video conferencing box, and you had to have like T1s and stuff. It was a really expensive, big deal, thousands and thousands of dollars. And my sister used to sell a conferencing system. I don't know how many years ago, but she was a vice president of a company that's what they did. They sold video conferencing systems. And now the fact that with your phone or with your low-end PC, you can have a collaborative meeting and share your screen and record it if you want. You can broadcast it publicly or privately. You know, it's just phenomenal. We don't really appreciate it. It's a very full-featured. I use Live because the video quality is better, but it's a very full-featured product. So kudos, I guess. Sheila, I know you use Hangouts socially. Do you ever use them for work or for like doing any kind of productivity type stuff?
No, I haven't used Hangouts for a long time, you know, because I would use them more often if people would see them, but they don't. So I don't use Hangouts very often like I could.
Well, you know, if you want to, you can. There's no pressure.
Yep.
And I apologize. Again, I don't know what that audio issue is, but we are dealt the hand we're dealt. Okay, next up is Google is testing. This is kind of a opinionated headline here. Google is testing proper post sharing to apps in Google Plus for Android.
No, that's not an opinion at all.
Okay.
It used to be, I mean, let's put it this way. If you're on an Android device, and I realize you don't understand this because you've got a more primitive operating system, Dan, but on an Android device, there are extremely well-established ways that something from one application can share data to another application. This is called sharing. You might have heard of this concept. There's one application that has been violating this protocol for just over 4 years now, and that's Google+, which doesn't share anything to anybody, even though it has a share button. What this report is now saying is that Google Plus will be adopting the share protocol that every other app uses. And that's pretty useful in some ways, but it kind of also points to how Google Plus screwed themselves over from day one.
Okay, so
what this means is that you'll be able, using a mobile device, to share a post from Google Plus to Facebook.
oh, okay. Couldn't you do that?
Not
With-
from mobile.
Okay.
Not from the mobile.
Mobile, there was no, I mean, in theory, you could get the URL on the desktop side, but there was no mobile way to do that.
Hmm.
And
Okay,
now
so
you
there
can.
was the opposite has been true for quite some time, where you could share anything to Google Plus, and they've done a pretty good job. I mean, you can, I think, embed a
Not really.
SoundCloud.
Done a pretty bad job, but you know, what do you expect?
Because that's why I know that there's a Friends Plus Me app that I use and Mike Elgin uses, where we originate stuff on Google Plus and then it farms it out to Facebook and Twitter, optionally.
Yeah, that is such a big mess.
I hate it.
I think the only reason why Friends Plus Me has continued to work for the past several years is because Google has not really tried that hard. Well, Google has not made any significant changes to its system in that long.
You know, I hate that Friends Plus Me thing because it shows when you share it to Facebook, it has that Friends Plus Me as the link. It doesn't show that it's from Google Plus, or it doesn't even show. So that just basically tells people that you're not there on Facebook. You're somewhere else.
Well,
Well, good. It should tell you that. It tells them that.
Yeah, it
That's,
does,
you
but I
know-
still get a lot of interaction. I mean, if I, it depends
That's
on the
good.
content, the quality of the post.
Well, yeah.
Like I posted
Well,
something about the lady, the Kim, for example, some of my stuff gets, no traction, some gets a lot. I posted something about the Kim Davis lady, the clerk, right? And it got a ton of people fighting back and forth about it. And it was a Friends Plus Me thing. I posted on Google Plus. My dad said, yeah, comment on your post. And I didn't even realize there was so much traction because I hadn't logged into Facebook in like a day. And there was like 15, 20 people arguing back and forth or something crazy. So it still can do it. I mean, it just depends on the post. It's just convenient, and you can turn it off. I have a little code I can put in there to not send it out there if I want it. But, yeah, but you haven't been able to. Yeah, I agree. You haven't been able to share a single post, which is crazy. I mean, it's 4 years in, right? And they're finally you can. Hey, let's share a post.
Why? It's not like you can share a post from Facebook to Google Plus, is it?
Yeah. I don't know if
Really?
you can do it from Facebook on mobile. I mean, you can take a link to any post.
Well, that's kind of the freaking point. I mean, that's what I'm saying. And I don't know because I don't use Facebook on my mobile device, but
I don't have that option right now to share a post to an external.
Mobile is still the compromise platform, even though it's the most used. But they're slowly figuring it out. But there are limitations to, I mean, there's no keyboard. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can't do. They're trying to figure out how to make it but mobile's never going to be full feature compared to desktop.
that's the stupidest comment I've ever heard from you, Dan.
I mean,
No, that's not true. I've come up. You've made some other really stupid comments.
no,
So
I
that
mean,
ranks-
I don't care how good Photoshop gets on my phone. It's not going to be the same as what they can do on desktop. With desktop, I have a physical keyboard, I have a mouse, I can have any number of USB devices, etc. With my
So
phone,
there's lots you can do. So there's lots you can do on your phone that you can't do on your desktop.
true, but I can't think.
So what the hell is the point of the statement?
On most of the apps I have, or most of the programs I run, the mobile version is a tiny shell of the functionality of the desktop version. Facebook and Google Plus included.
And that's relevant to the rest of this conversation. How?
Because you're okay, troll. Because
No, Dan, I've got no idea what the hell you're talking about. You went off on one of your tangents.
no.
You know,
I mean, you're saying that it's about mobile, and I'm saying that that they're getting.
Right, and I'm saying that most other mobile applications handle sharing really well. Most desktop applications don't handle sharing at all.
Trying to think. Okay.
Okay, now I'm looking at Dan's post here on mobile. Okay, I'm using an Android version, and it has that that little share button. You know, the little share thingy. There is no option to share to Facebook. I'm not sure how you would do that.
Well, again, this isn't something that's available currently.
Not currently, but it's coming
report
out.
said that there were changes that were coming.
They're coming. Oh, that's okay. They're coming. Okay, but for now, I can't do that. Okay, it's coming. All right. I misunderstood you. I do that very well. So, okay.
Okay. Let me look at some comments here. Oh, comment from Alan. Evening, folks. I'm trying to see these from top to bottom here. Oops. I can't see. Shoot.
You're right.
Sorry about that. Okay, so what do we got here, Alan? We got from John Jensen.
Yeah, over in the YouTube chat, we're having some robust conversation at the moment. He's pointing out, first of all, that my audio sync is off. So I've tried to make some adjustments, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get them much better. John's bemoaning the fact that Pam isn't here tonight, but says hi to Sheila. I'm not quite sure what he was talking about not using them anymore, because they seem like they're gone, but I assume he might be talking about Hangouts. Like the original Google Plus Hangouts film strip on the bottom, that's still there, John. I'm not sure what you think is missing here, but they're still there. Oh yeah, he was talking about Hangouts. So I don't use them anymore because they seem like they're gone. They're definitely there. In fact, they're more than they were before. I use them all the time for work.
I think
But
it's important to differentiate Hangouts on air versus Hangouts too. There's two different beasts, right?
that's true. And Hangouts on Air is tied into the entire YouTube Charlie Foxtrot. But that's another story that I can ramble off on. Um, Anybody notice that Facebook is advertising on TV? No, I hadn't noticed that, but that's hardly a surprise, I guess. Is the reason for sharing limitations due to who a post is shared with? Asked Troy. I don't think so, Troy. I think the reason why there was a limitation on Google Plus Mobile sharing out was basically they didn't want you to share it out. They honestly wanted, when you did sharing, they wanted you to share inside Google Plus. That was kind of their very, very narrow focus. And it's an understandable focus. As I said, Facebook, you can only share on Facebook. Twitter, who knows what the hell you're doing on Twitter? Nobody knows what they're doing on Twitter. But it's understandable that they had this narrow concept. The fact that you saw photos, for example, now offers sharing links to everything. That's kind of an indication of where I think we're going to see Google Plus going as well. I've heard people talk about how Google Plus, they imagine that Google Plus will evolve into an advanced Google Reader, which could share to a number of other places. That's an interesting thought. I don't know if that's what we'll see, but it's an interesting thought.
Yeah, and Pam Adger's talking about can't you just share the URL? That's what I was thinking, but I'm not sure how easy it is.
Yeah, now you've got me curious to see if I can get to a URL from mobile.
Clearly, you can do it. I mean, from desktop, you can share from either, and always have been. I mean, since I think
Yeah.
wasn't that a thing though? Early at some point, you couldn't. There was no direct link to a certain post, and then Google Plus
Oh, here
added
we
that.
are. Share link. Yeah, you can actually share the link to anywhere. I wonder if that's actually the new feature, or if that's always been here. But I'm seeing something on the app now that says share link, and then it lets me.
I know I can copy the.
So I've no idea if that's actually new or not, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm looking same thing on iOS and Android here. I can get the URL. I can copy it. But all right, so there we go. Okay, next is Google and Twitter team up.
So here's
I'm
what
sorry.
So Pam says. I click the three dots next to the URL and select copy. Pam, I'm talking about when I'm in the app. There is no URL that's shown. So you can't click those three dots. On the other hand, if I click those three dots, I currently have a menu item called Share Link. And I can click on Share Link, and from there share it to Google+, Inbox, Hangouts, Gmail, Android Beam, barcodes. Why would I want to share it to Barcode Scanner? Blogger, Bluetooth, copy it to Clipboard, Drive, Glass, or Messaging. And that's a standard share facility inside Android. I don't know, and I think that might be what they're talking about. I don't remember if it was there before.
Alan, I'll be back in a minute. I'm dealing with a issue. I'll be right back.
You're dealing with a thing. So he's gonna thing the thing, and hopefully it will thing. So when the thing things, thing. So here I am. I get to cover dead air as we hit the end of a topic. Great. So continuing on with some of our comments, I just found a share external on a picture on a Facebook post. That's interesting, Troy. I hadn't realized that. Is it share external? That's actually pretty interesting. I'm not sure I had ever seen that on Facebook either. And John says, I don't like sharing links for pictures, just sharing the pic from me to you, nothing else. We're going to cover that one in a couple of minutes, John. Pam clarifies, yes, it was there before. Okay, Pam, I said corrected. Thank you. Now I'm wondering what the hell this story was talking about. Which means I actually have to, open and read the story again, because I probably read it sometime in the past, See, no, this is what they were reporting, is that ShareLink is opening up the standard share system, and that this was not there previously. Unless, of course, it's been there for 2 years and nobody bothered to look for it because, they never used the feature. But this does sound slightly different than what you were talking about initially, Pam. But, like I said, I'm willing to be corrected. Especially as I'm, rambling on during dead air time. Okay, fine. Dan's not coming back. Who knows when he will. What did I have on my next one here?
No. I'm not done.
Hi, Pam. Sorry, didn't hear you come in.
I'm no makeup or anything, but I wanted to tell you, if you're on any other website, let's say I was reading an article about the shootings on the freeway in Phoenix, right? And I can select that URL and share it.
Right,
okay?
But that's not what we're talking. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right. Now, if I'm on Facebook and I have a public post,
yes.
Right? Let me see.
I don't have Facebook installed, so I can't even. I can't try this out.
I'm there now.
Okay.
I have to find my newest public post. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to get to my own profile from the mobile app. Isn't that funny?
Shocking.
Yeah. I have to click on my picture to get there, and then go to my timeline. Okay, scope rings. Okay, let me see. I click on this, and save link. I can save link. Now, let me see if I can go to Google and go to paste.
No, if you save the link, that sounds like that's what it does. And this was on Facebook's app.
Paste.
I don't see the save the link on my profile though. I mean, I'm looking at.
It would be on a particular post.
Yeah, I'm on the post.
Sheila, your audio is horrible.
Yeah, we've had this conversation a few times.
Oh.
We're having several audio issues.
Oh, I know. Okay, it says share external. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Facebook, I can share external.
Okay, and Troy also says, I had to click on the picture to get the share external to show on Facebook Mobile. So, okay, so Facebook Mobile's been able to have it for a while.
I'm having trouble.
Google Plus Mobile, this sounds like it's a relatively new feature, however.
No, well, okay, so let me go to one of my posts. I assume you just mean any public post, right?
Any post, and not even a public post. I think I was trying it on a private post already.
So I have share link on here. I've always had share link as long as I've been using this phone.
Well, I'll take your word for it.
Okay. Yes, you can on your Android version.
Of what?
Oh, on the mobile.
Oh, so worst comes to worst.
You click on the photo on G Plus. It's like here, somebody's photo. I like it. I'm going to hit that share button right there. And then I scroll up and I can share to wherever I want it to go.
Okay, so that's a share photo.
That's a share photo, and I can't duplicate that, but okay.
For the share link, if you're sharing to Instagram, for example, which is not one of the little icons in my repository here, I can copy to clipboard, open up Instagram, and then hit paste.
Right. I didn't think that share link was there previously, but like I said, I'm willing to be wrong. certainly Android Authority, or whoever it was that posted this, so Android Police,
Mhm.
also didn't think it was there previously.
Interesting.
Now, it's certainly possible that we're wrong, because that's rarely the case. No, seriously. But that's what was reported, and I went and looked, and I said, I didn't remember seeing that either, and saw it, so I could be wrong.
I have on Facebook, I can share to Instagram. I can share it to Instagram from Facebook.
Yeah, that's because Facebook and Instagram are Facebook.
Right. Okay. And now I'll go back to G+.
Sheila, can I suggest you change your bandwidth usage to a lower bandwidth setting? See if that helps with the audio any?
Oh, wait a minute.
Anyway, I think we are rapidly beating this subject to death here. So either this is a great new feature that it's about time Google Plus is finally supported, or it's been there all along and clearly nobody noticed. Either way.
Oh, yeah. Either way, now you get to do it. Yay!
Yay, wonderful. Okay, so we can move on to the next story unless we really, really want to stick with this one.
Is that better?
Well, we'll see. It's better so far. We'll see how it works in the long run.
I put it on low bandwidth.
We'll
Okay.
see how it goes in the long run. Okay.
I'm gonna check.
So next up is that Google and Twitter appear to be teaming up again to offer their own version of instant articles, and there's going to be a slight variation compared to what Apple and Facebook are doing with instant articles.
G+, I can share an image from, I can share from G+ to Instagram
Yes, that's
on mobile.
okay. Thanks for confirming that one, Pam. Sheila, Tom.
Whatever.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I don't have Instagram installed, so that's probably why.
That's why. Okay. That's cool.
Okay, I just have to bring this comment in from George Cozy. George, great to see you on this evening. Passing thought, Dan is probably negotiating a price with the stripper. It's late. I can't keep these thoughts in check at this hour. George, that's absolutely fine. Feel free to share things like that, especially about Dan. Especially when he's not on mic and he can't defend himself. Because we sure as hell aren't going to defend him.
I'm going to defend him. I feel sorry for him. You guys are picking on him.
We've only been live for 15 minutes and the show's already derailed. It's fine. And I can't even blame Dan for it derailing this time.
Oh, you guys started late?
No. Us?
I didn't have my phone enabled. I looked up, I said, holy crap, it's after 6, and you know how it goes.
So Google and Twitter are teaming up to offer a challenge to Apple's and Facebook's and Snapchat's instant articles. So what we, in fact, I think we've covered this a few months ago, is that both Facebook initially, and Apple apparently just announced this as well, is that they're going to be making a way so that articles are delivered directly to users. They come up faster, so there's already some partial delivery, some early caching about it. So when a user clicks, it comes up very quickly. And the big bonus is that the companies that write the articles are going to get more money, a bigger kickback. So apparently Twitter and Google, feeling threatened by this, are now introducing their own solution to this, and the solution is going to be coming soon, in theory, and it's going to be open source, so they're not charging for it. So exactly who's going to be getting the money isn't clear. Presumably, the answer is going to be, well, the company will still get all of the money, minus whatever advertising they put on the page, which is where Google still makes its money. So no big surprise on this one. Have you read up on this, Dan?
Yeah, I think it's not so much as their own solution as it's the non-Facebook solution, and they're pulling in the ads, and I'm not sure if they're coming like from the desktop version or what, but most of those would be Google AdWords unless it's in the Facebook ecosystem. I mean, Yahoo and Bing have their own ad.
This is a mobile thing, not just a desktop thing.
Right. So we'll see. By the way, I was at the dentist today, and I'm literally like half stoned right now. So Alan's usually at an intellectual advantage against me, but tonight especially so. So if I disappear and stuff, I'm battling. I've got all these pills. I could do the maracas.
I would point out that it was George Cozy that dissed one at you. It wasn't even me.
It's okay. I love George, and the Netherlands, which I think is the richest country in the world, as far as like per capita or something. There's some startling statistic. Anyway, yeah. So this is good, and Facebook. I think this came in the news about the advantage of. What's the word? It's not native. What's the word for if the story is loaded by Facebook versus a link, right? The equivalent of, for example, for this show, if we uploaded it, and I've tried that before, but our show's often too long to meet the criteria. But if we actually upload it as a Facebook video, which would be auto-playing and that sort of thing, versus a link to YouTube, and the written equivalent, so of being in the app. Is this going to matter, Alan? I mean, won't each platform create their own thing?
I don't know, but again, this is kind of, what Google is pushing here isn't just saying, hey, this is our platform. They're saying, hey, this is our platform, and if you want to use it in your own way, figure out a way to use it. That's the beauty of open sourcing it, is that they're basically letting anyone use it in whatever way they want to. So if I wanted to start embedding someone else's stories in my website, in theory, I could use this.
Okay, I don't get it.
Basically, the issue here, Pam, is that that websites, news sites, take freaking forever to load because they've got so many ads. They've got so much crap on them that they take forever to load. So they want to make it so that it's a lot faster for these stories to come up, and Facebook's done so, and Apple is now doing so as well. Now, I honestly don't think that people really have that much of an attention problem that waiting 2 seconds instead of 1 second is going to be that much of an issue, but apparently they do.
I think the difference is, let's say at Alan's site, prisoner.com, he has a 7-paragraph post about whatever, a news story, okay? And there's ads on the website. This is fictional, and there's 3 or 4 ads, right? If he actually took those 7 paragraphs of content and put them in a Facebook post or a Google Plus post, it would load much faster than a link to prisoner.com/whatever. But he wouldn't get the revenue in Facebook or on Google Plus that he gets from the post, so they link to the external site. It's slower. This is a compromise where it kind of is like being cached on Google Plus or Twitter or Facebook. The theory here, it would be cached with the ads from prisoner.com or some sort of hybrid there, so you're getting the benefit of the speed.
Or if not with the ads, then there is at least some revenue sharing involved. I think is part of the point. So if not the ads, then the fact that your article shows up on Facebook means you'll get some cut of Facebook's revenue.
Why don't they simply monetize Google Plus? Wouldn't that be easier?
Oh yeah, because that will really attract more users to this place.
The Google Plus user would really be pissed and might leave.
Okay, so I have sort of a question. I have not seen any ads on Facebook. Where are you guys all seeing ads?
Do you have an ad blocker?
Yes.
That's why you don't see ads on Facebook.
Oh, so none of this applies to me.
Yeah.
Not to me either. I have ad block too.
Pam,
No
have you
ad.
also been to the dentist today?
No. Actually, okay, so for everyone watching, this is how I look when I go to work. I don't wear any makeup. Well, actually, right now I'm not wearing a bra either. I normally do wear a bra to work, but you can't really tell because I'm only neck up. But yeah, I don't dress up for work anymore. It's 15 years, I have absolutely no desire to.
Why should you? Who are you trying to impress?
I
Conform.
wasn't referring to your appearance. You look great. I was just you seem kind of
I'm really tired.
okay. Yeah,
This week has been really long for me, so I'm really tired.
I'm semi-stoned from the
And
dentist, so
it's really, really hot. I am not used to this heat and humidity, and I'm just not handling it well. So I'm drinking coffee as fast as I can. So I apologize for.
I guess on a hot day, the bra is the first thing to go.
Fuck yes.
But then the hot coffee doesn't help.
No, that doesn't help. But I can't stand cold coffee, so
Yep.
I just have to deal.
Okay.
So there we go. What did you have done at the dentist, by the way?
I have several. I'm gonna have to go to. I had intense pain on my left side, and I'm taking ibuprofen, and I'm taking acetaminophen, which I think is Tylenol, right? And then every 2 hours, I'm alternating those two. They offered me the hardcore stuff, and I always turn that down because I don't like taking narcotics, Vicodin stuff.
Yeah, but Dan,
Pam,
tooth pain doesn't apply.
what do you mean?
If you have tooth pain, you need to take the Vicodin.
No, I have a bottle of Vicodin from the last time I went to the dentist. I never used any of it, and so I've got it if I need it. But I turned down the prescription. I'm probably the only person who's ever turned down a prescription of Vicodin before.
Well, did you know that you can use ibuprofen and Tylenol together?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing every 2 hours, one or the other. So
No,
every 4 hours.
your alternative.
Yeah.
Did you know you can take them together?
Yeah, but I figured that way.
To give a bigger bang.
Yeah, but it's just, and I'm gonna have to
Anyway.
see a surgeon and have 4 wisdom teeth taken out, which is terrifying. So it's painful and terrifying at the same time.
So this is a wisdom tooth impaction problem.
Yeah. And I had a crown fall out of my head, and I asked the guy, I said, "Why did I spend $1,000 having a root canal if it's not permanent?" I didn't know. You know what I mean?
Wait, so you had a root canal? They put in a temporary crown, and you never went back to the permanent
No,
one?
it was a real crown, but it was years ago, and so it.
Oh, yeah,
He's
that
not
happens.
He's not a prince anymore. He lost his crown.
Exactly. So anyway,
Do you grind your teeth at night?
no. How much longer till we're not talking about me?
Oh my God! Dan actually wants to get back on subject?
Yeah.
What show is this?
So, okay. Anyway, the instant articles is a wonderful new idea. Kudos to Google and Twitter. Are we done talking about that?
Yes?
Or do we want to beat it a little more? Do we want to talk about sharing links again?
No.
Speaking of, okay, I didn't understand this, Alan. Again, I'm half
I'm
stoned, so be
Oh, you
kind.
blame it on being stoned. Okay.
Yeah, I'm stoned. This is Stone Dan. And Alan's thinking, I'm waiting for Alan to give me the dig. I can't tell the difference between regular Dan and Stone Dan, Dan.
You missed the dig already. Keep going.
I've heard several digs. I just couldn't respond because I was out of mic range. Wish, quote unquote, wish we could get a picture URL. Or as in honor of Chi, Earl. He's the only person I know who says Earl instead of URL.
Yeah, so this is Interesting. I've been trying to follow and help out on the Google Plus Photos community, because the volunteers there are ridiculously overwhelmed in trying to support a product that is held together with Scotch tape, and chewing gum. And the current massive thread on there is that people who have been sharing photos, who have been trying to embed photos in blogs or forums or, other products that actually are useful in doing social communication, are unable, used to be able to do something like right mouse click over an image, copy the URL, and paste that somewhere else. This has worked fine for years, and it stopped working a week ago. And they've been trying to figure out and in fact, some of the old links, which have been working fine for years, had stopped working. So they've been trying to figure out what's going on and why, and does anybody really know or care? And is this ever going to get fixed? And there have been no answers. The only thing that I find surprising about this is back in the first week or so that photos came out, somebody discovered that these URLs existed and posted about it, and Google's official response was, yes, these are incredibly long URLs, so they're hard to randomly discover, and that was intentional. But now here we are left with something that's breaking as we look at it.
So when you say picture URL,
Yes.
you mean from a Google Plus post?
No.
Or do you
Nope.
mean from
Google Photos.
Photos?
From a
Not
Google
Google
Photo.
Plus Photos, Google Photos.
Right, Google Photos. Or Picasa, since apparently they're the same thing.
Hey, I don't want to go there.
I don't either. The problem is when you actually, it's ridiculous. Trying to, following questions, somebody will post something, and the answer either boils down to, that can't be done, please send in feedback, or try the following, where the following is something along the lines of, try doing this in Google Photos, and if that doesn't work, try doing this in Picasa, and if that doesn't work, try doing this in Drive. And if that doesn't work, try doing this in Google+.
Well, one more question.
Oh, I don't think so, but keep going.
Does it matter if do you know if it matters whether the post or whether the photo has been shared to Google Plus or not?
I think it has been tested and has been determined that no, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. So I can click on one that's a little smaller than my original image and it'll be fine.
Click on in what sense?
I'm going to click on the photo.
Okay. And
Okay.
here's the thing.
Currently it says copy image URL.
Right. And here's the thing. I've done that. And the
Okay.
URL that came out worked fine.
Yes.
Other people have done it, and the URL that comes out works fine.
Yes.
And suddenly stops working.
Okay. Now I have another. It's not a quick fix. It really isn't, and I don't know if it works on mobile. I'll have to check it out in a second. But let me click on a photo I did not share.
Here's the quick fix that people are coming up with boils down to switch to Flickr.
Well, my quick fix without switching to something else was save image.
That's essentially the same as switching to something else, because the whole point of it is they want to use Google Photos as the storage location for the photo, and embed that photo somewhere else. And if they need to save the image, they now need to put that image somewhere else, like Flickr or PhotoBucket. And
So
if you're doing that, then why the hell are you using Google Photos in the first place, goes the argument.
You're right. So I have AdBlock Plus, right? Right?
As we've already established, yes.
Yes. I'm going to suggest that might be an issue. And I'm also going to say that I also have Google's URL shortener as a Chrome app. And one of the options I have once I right click on a photo is shorten this image with Google, GOO.GL, right?
Right. The problem is
And
that
copy to clipboard.
right. The problem is that shorten with Google
Mm.
does essentially still creates a URL that may
That
not
stops.
exist in the future.
That may stop working later.
Right. And because the underlying URL may stop working later. And copying it to clipboard again is great, but you still need some place to put it.
Right. Well, you open whatever and you can paste it.
Well, except no, you can't. I mean, you go to Blogger and you can't paste the raw image.
All right. Now I don't use Blogger, so I wouldn't,
You go to WordPress, you can't paste the raw image.
Yeah, I don't use any blogging websites. So I can't speak to that, but I'm taking your word for it. What about copy image?
Again, if it's copying the image as opposed to copying the URL, that
Yes.
gives you a copy of the image, which is great, but you still need to put it somewhere.
Yep.
Images, just to clarify a little bit, images themselves can't be embedded into an HTML document, into a web document. They have to exist separately from it and are referenced by the document.
They cannot.
No. The short answer is they cannot. The long answer is yes, there is a way, but nobody does it because that's stupid.
So can it be done with? I was trying to think what other. I wonder if it has something to do with HTTPS and HTTP.
No, it has to do with the fact that Google fucked up.
Hmm.
That's really
Well,
fundamentally what it boils down to.
That was sort of a given, but I was
I
trying.
mean, again, Google's been using HTTPS for years, and that was working up until about a week ago.
Yeah. Interesting. Now I'm wondering whether I can do it for mobile.
I actually don't know if you can do it for mobile. That goes back to...
I am clicking on the photo I did not share, and it says edit in Snapseed, add to album, slideshow, use as print and delete device copy.
Print, that's a new one.
Hmm.
That's from which app?
This is the Photos app on Android. I'm sorry, Google Photos. Well, you know what I mean. Google Photos on my Android.
And you're looking at a photo.
I'm looking at a photo that I did not share to Google+. So I took two photos, and one of them I cropped, and the other one I did not.
Okay, I don't have print, but I also don't have a print set up, or a printer set up from this phone, so that's okay.
I don't have a printer set up from this phone either.
I have no idea where that one comes from.
It says save as PDF. That's an option.
Do you have Cloud Print set up on your phone? I don't have that one at all. That's a new one.
Didn't think I did, but I must have something, right?
Hmm.
Let me look at my
That's an
productivity.
interesting one.
I have Cloud, Drive, Keep, and Docs.
That sounds like you're sharing more than...
Yeah, but it does say to save as a PDF, and I didn't even know I had a PDF functionality on my phone.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Cloud Print does have PDF functionality built into it.
Well, I'm going to push this print, and I'm going to save it and see what it does. Save as PDF.
We've got a bunch of comments. Let's hit some of them, because you guys are chatty this evening, which is good, because we sure as hell have nothing else to talk about.
It allows me to save to Drive or downloads.
Yeah. See, that really sounds like it's Cloud Print.
Save to my Drive.
Troy says Dan lost his crown and also needs to lose more wisdom. I don't know. I don't think he's got all that much wisdom to spare.
I'm going to lose all 4 of my wisdoms.
Save.
John Jensen, I was so excited by Google Plus for years, but in the last year or so, I noticed I'm using Facebook a lot more and don't post much to Google Plus. I want to have that same excitement about Google Plus, but just don't. That's because Google Plus sucks. That's a technical term. George replies, the fun on Google Plus left when Vic left. Look at Alan's face when he reads this. Oh, George.
At least he did an interview with us.
Yes,
Twice.
that's true. That's more than we can say about all of the Google Plus.
We've tried.
Headsets. Here's the thing. I mean, I liked Vic. I did like Vic.
We
He
do
really
like
was
Vic. We like Vic. We don't.
I don't know.
we
I haven't
didn't-
spoken to him in
yeah.
2 or so years, so I can't say that I still like it. I liked Vic. He was the wrong person for Google Plus, and although he had a lot of energy, it was a lot of Wizard of Oz energy. It was a lot of don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain, pay attention to me, because there's nothing behind the curtain. And that was Google Plus. A lot of personality of Vic and nothing behind the curtain.
I think that it's really hard to do a social network, and if you ask Tom Anderson,
No.
he'll tell you that I think he said it on Google Plus. He at one point he said that Mark came along and did it better. You know, it's Mark Zuckerberg is really, really good at this, and Google's really good at a search algorithm, and others have tried. Microsoft is a huge corporation, and they've done all they can do to dethrone Google, and have failed with Bing to dethrone Google. I mean, Bing is still out there. It's not insignificant, but it's difficult. I mean, the incumbents it's difficult. There's certain you can't just say, oh, let's do a social network, let's do a search engine, let's do an ad network, and try to beat Google AdWords. I mean, good luck with that, right? Let's try to beat YouTube. Let's do it. It's
Well, but
easier
that's the
said
thing.
than done. So I think
That's the thing here. Google Plus, when it launched, didn't, to those of us that really actually were trying to use it, didn't look like it was trying to out-Twitter Twitter, or out-Facebook Facebook. Didn't look like it was trying to out-Twitter Twitter either. It looked like it was trying to do something smart, and that was take a bunch of Google things and make them social. And it utterly failed in doing so. And instead, it ended up looking like Facebook.
But we found,
And
like,
in a
like
way that
Sheila, but you say it failed.
It failed.
It didn't adopt the wide usage. But Alan, you and Pam and Sheila and I can still use it to a degree, and do find it a social animal. The only thing is, outside of the ecosystem that is, the few dozen of us who are friends on Google Plus, we have to use other things for other people because they're not on here. So it didn't get wide adoption, but for those who use it, it's a good product, I think. Still, I'm not ready to say
it's
it
not a
sucks.
bad product, but Facebook's also a good product.
It's very widely adopted.
No, even beyond the fact that it's widely adopted. It has some solidly useful things to it. Now, it's also got some solid things that are fucked up. But people ignore the fact that those fucked up parts because it's widely adopted.
And when
Google has even more that are fucked up, and because it wasn't widely adopted, those fucked up aspects drove people away.
the fact that nobody, I think, I don't know. I mean, hindsight's 20/20 is easy. Again, I'm half stoned, so I apologize. but-
Hindsight's 20/20 is easy, but I was saying this 4 years ago, Dan.
I know, and they, I think, was it that they didn't know what the hell they were doing? Was it they released really an alpha product to the mainstream when it really should not have been yet?
No.
Was it a mistake
No.
to have engineers and friends of engineers as the initial users, so it was
No.
a sausage factory
No.
in the beginning?
No, the problem is that they were essentially contradicting themselves. On one hand, they said, "Hey, we want real people," and then they did everything possible to drive real people away.
All the real people came, and discovered
And
that
then left.
nobody else was on there, didn't know what to do, and they left. They didn't put a picture up. Every single person we know on Facebook has an account and maybe one post, if that, from June or July of 2011. Is that when it was? And they came and they looked around, and I don't see anything. I don't see any local. I don't see anybody I know. There's no discovery. I don't understand what this is. I'm leaving.
It
And
would
they've never
boil
gone
down
back.
to there was no compelling reason to use Google Plus. And I've said that for 4 years. There was no compelling reason to use Google Plus. And you know what? There still is no compelling reason to use Google Plus. I mean, George may say, yeah, Google Plus used to be fun and it's not fun anymore. I'll be honest. To me, Google Plus is as fun as it always was, which comes pretty close to zero.
By the way, I'm looking at this Hangout, right? And there's I've got the new Google Plus logo for the Google Plus Week thing, right? And on the other side is the Hangout thing with the little asterisk, which I think is the old one. Is that the new one or the old one? And then it says Google. Is this a Google Hangout or a Google Plus Hangout or an Alphabet Hangout? What the hell is this exactly that we're in?
The Hangout. What do you mean, is it a Google or a Google?
The
It's been a
Google
Google
logo
Hangout.
is superimposed, right?
Yeah, it's been a Google Hangout for years. Since I/O 2013
Okay.
is when I think they officially announced branding everything as Google Hangouts. So we have some more comments. From John. Alan will not like this comment. Oh, sorry, it suddenly disappeared on me. Alan
no.
will not like this comment, but I don't get Drive. What's not to get about Drive? I mean, you need to follow up on that one because Drive's really pretty straightforward. You put files there. It's just like a Drive. You get it? No, Drive is actually one of the most, here's the, Dan may remember. He may not because he's kind of high at the moment. Pam may remember. 3 or so years ago, when Google Docs got renamed to Google Drive, I criticized it. And Oleg rightfully stepped in and said, no, Alan, you're missing the point about this. And when I looked further, he was right. And Drive really is one of the most brilliant things that Google has done. Basically, what they've done is they've almost created a web-based operating system such that you can literally, anybody can write an application, use Drive as the storage engine for it, and have anybody open up their application, their web application, their web based on through Drive. So it's just like an operating system's file storage, because it can trigger any application to load those files. That part of it is brilliant. Not many people get that part, though. And they've done some other stupid things. I think their current UI is one of those stupid things. But in terms of their overall product, Drive and the related aspects of it, one of the most brilliant things Google has done.
I can tell you I do see a pretty wide adoption from non-techie people based on the strength of the initial docs and spreadsheet products. I see a lot of people using Drive. I used to see a lot of people using Dropbox, and I still do, but I see a lot of people you wouldn't think would be into Drive using it.
See, here's the thing. I keep trying to use Dropbox. I despise Dropbox.
I hate
Dropbox's
Dropbox.
policies are terrible. But Dropbox does one thing, and it does that one thing not even well, but reasonably well. That one thing that it does is it stores files. Drive doesn't just store files. It lets you use files. And that's a major difference between the two. Dropbox, you put files there, they show up on your local machine. That's all they're there for. They've recently added their Photos thing, which, as I understand it, blows Google Photos out of the water. And that's understandable because it's pretty easy to blow a piece of paper out of the water. But that's really all it does. Drive is so much more complex. You can essentially build major editors on that. You can build photo editors that sit on top of Drive and use it. And the fact that Google didn't do that only illustrates the fact that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. we now
Yeah.
have joining us this evening is Kevin. Hey, Kevin, and then Pam, you can tell me why I'm full of it.
No, not while you're full of it. Remember that PDF that I saved to Drive?
Ah, yes.
I just opened it,
And
and it only saved half the picture. It's very much cropped in a strange way
that's weird.
compared to the original. So
I think Drive is
It's
something
pretty
that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
that
Pam.
would be pretty much, I was just going to say that would be pretty much useless for my purposes, which was to try and figure out how to save a picture without, putting it on a different app or a different device or whatever to load into my Blogger that I don't use. So,
The list of
Yeah.
Google products you've tried and not used is long.
So so John clarified a little bit. This whole photo thing confuses me. Okay, there is where I agree. The fact that how Photos integrates or doesn't integrate with Drive, with Google Plus, with Picasa is a disgusting mess.
Yeah, wait
Yeah.
till we get into the payment topic we're coming up on soon.
Oh, that'll be a fun one. But
yeah.
but I mean, it's almost ridiculous what Google has how they've screwed up their Photos product. I would say that it was deliberate, except I can't imagine why they would deliberately fuck it up so badly.
In a way, Google hires too quickly and fires too slowly. And this is,
No, oh my God, no.
I mean, they kept
That's-
Orkut going. They
that-
kept,
You know what? That's really, Dan. You got to get off those drugs if you're going to make statements like that, because that's
They-
like their second stupid statement in the evening.
I don't know. I've rendered some doozies.
You have, but
That's
that
a-
really ranks up
that's
there.
a low
again.
bar.
You've had two top tens so far this
No,
evening.
I think they tend to throw spaghetti against the wall, and then they keep it around. Like right now, I mean, my God, the payment. I don't want to foreshadow that too
Okay,
much. But-
I'll agree with you there, but I don't think that's not hiring and firing. That's the fact that in coming up with ideas, they come up with stupid ideas.
But you
and
never
they-
know if it's going to be,
Well, in theory, Google likes talking about failing fast. And they've done that with a number of products in the past. They've rolled it out. They realized quickly that it didn't work. They pivoted. It still doesn't work. They pivot it again. Still doesn't work. They kick it to the curb. They've done that on hundreds of products.
That's what but sometimes I just fear, and we joked about this, but I don't know if we're really joking. We've wasted years of our lives, right? And they're just going to trash this one day. And they haven't even updated the logo on the Hangouts. I don't know. We'll see. But I do think on Drive, I think that as poorly reviewed as Google's foray into social has been received, I think that their efforts in the cloud are the opposite. I think they're doing a good job.
Well,
And they
here's the
have
thing.
to be
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the world's going mobile, and that is by nature a cloud-based thing. And you
Right,
want
but
fully
Dan,
functional
don't-
things happening in Mountain View that you can't do on your phone. Go ahead, Alan.
But Dan, don't confuse their efforts in the cloud with their efforts in the cloud.
Fair.
I don't want you to mix those two products up.
Okay.
is it like Wallet?
Almost, actually. We'll get to that in a minute, really. We keep teasing this one
Yeah,
for no good.
yeah. It's going to be
no,
a
but-
cluster. You know what?
The problem, Dan, is really in some ways they have two different cloud products.
Well, they do have. I mean, they have the enterprise.
got-
They have
what-
the various consumer iteration.
Right. What you're referring to, the consumer iteration, are what they refer to as apps or the at work product. They don't refer to that as a cloud product.
I'm just gonna. It's a question of which bridge do I jump off? What's up?
Going back to Drive a little bit, sometimes Drive does confuse me. I mean, in terms of having apps interact with the files that are there, that's really really cool. But sometimes I don't understand integration of actual actual information, such as from Google Keep. I keep thinking I use Google Keep on a daily basis, and I keep waiting for the day that I'll actually see some of those notes appear in Drive. I
Yeah.
know I'm a fool for using it because it's a 20% project that got
I had
abandoned.
forgotten about Keep. I had totally forgot.
I use
By the way,
it on
I
it.
should give Kevin a proper introduction. He is our new lighting director. Kevin, welcome. Kevin Bryant, our new director
Kevin,
of lighting.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem. Is it looks like it was a 20% project done by somebody on the Drive team in Australia.
Yeah,
It never quite got the full support.
You're absolutely right. I don't get it, but I also don't understand why it couldn't just gotten thrown in. Like as a 20% project, just have some folder or some kind of interaction or some kind of, app that would actually take the information out of Keep and let me see it in Drive.
I think part of the reason why, and this is kind of why there's also this really horrendous Photos integration, is that they don't want to mix metaphors. They're really trying to say that Google, that Drive lets you structure your data the way you want it.
Oh, you mean like the way that I can't ever change that Google Photos folder that they make?
Right. Well,
that
but
part.
You can, because the whole point of that which Google Photos folder? Do you mean the folder, or do you mean the strange icon that's now sitting on the side?
That's so confusing to me.
But that's also crap. The kind of concept, I don't think they didn't want to create these magic folders. They didn't want to say there is now a folder, an actual folder called Keep, and the folder in Keep has to have this structure and these files, and it has to look exactly this way, or the Keep app will break, which is what you see in Windows, which is what you see on a desktop application, is your files have to be arranged in a certain way because that's what the application is expecting. Keep stores its data. I mean, it stores its data somewhere in there using Google's unstructured cloud system, which is fine. Exposing that, now introduces some complications.
Well, do you think that they could make some kind of an app that you could install that would expose that? Do you think they could do that at least?
I don't know. I obviously haven't seen what Keep looks like.
Yeah, that's true.
But I'm kind of guessing that the reason why you're not seeing Keep files is for one of two reasons. Either there's only one file, in which case you don't need to see it, or if there's a bunch of files, they don't want you doing things like dragging it around to different parts of the file system, because that makes it harder for them to figure out what the hell is going on.
Or harder for them to forget it. I have a feeling it's stuck in some kind of corner somewhere, and they don't want to disturb it.
I don't know. Every so often it gets an update. I mean, it gets updates more frequently than Google Plus does.
Oh, say, speaking of photos, by the way, do you think... I'm talking specifically about the photo editing tools.
Oh, God.
Do you I'll ask the question. Do you think that they should replace all the current photo editing tools with the things that are available in Snapseed?
Yes. They own Snapseed.
Yeah, but
and on mobile, I actually have that option.
Right.
When I go to Google Photos, I can edit in Snapseed.
Yeah, but edit in Snapseed also fucks things up in other brand new, unique, and distinct ways. Here's the thing. Here's what they really should have... here's the problem. The Google Photos team apparently doesn't even know that Drive exists, is really what I'm convinced about. Because Drive has the ability to edit photos. How do I know this? Because Pixlr has been doing it for 3 freaking years on Google Drive. Google Drive has a ton of photo support. And I don't mean Google Photo support, I mean photo support. Like if you upload a photo there, it will track the metadata for the photo. Like the camera model that you released, like the shutter speed of it, which is, more information than you can get out of Google Photos these days. Google Drive has this really neat feature that files can be versioned. So if you, in theory, upload a photo and then replace that photo later, you have multiple versions of the photo. Isn't that brilliant?
I have, let's say I have this photo that I uploaded to Drive, okay,
Yeah,
on 2013,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
and there is no option for altering it. However, there is a open with PicMonkey.
Yeah.
Pixlr Express,
Oh
Yep.
my God.
Cloud Convert.
Yep.
Some of their
Connect
valuable
more
partners.
So where's
And
the
Dan, Photoshop is also one of those.
where's the editing capability?
You just saw it. Pixlr Editor, PicMonkey, those are the editing capabilities.
Maybe they could use one of those editors to update the logo on the Google Hangout.
Now, the fact that Snapseed isn't on that list,
Well, I don't have that Chrome app installed. I have,
there is no Chrome app for Snapseed.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That's
But
the problem.
but there is with PicMonkey, and I have it installed. Otherwise, it wouldn't show up either.
Right.
So Pixlr Express is your idea of their great photo editor.
It's better than the non-existent.
And
Snapseed.
they want access to my stuff.
Of course they want access to your stuff. If you want to be able to edit something, you need to give them access to it.
Yeah, but they don't need my email address for that.
Your email address is your unique identifier.
Hmm. So this is just another app.
It's just another app.
Yep.
What if you don't have Chrome?
Um,
What if you're on Firefox?
it's not a Chrome app. It's a Drive app. You don't need Chrome.
And I opened my picture sideways.
Well, you're just kind of twisted, Pam. We all knew that, though.
Bullshit. I'm just kidding.
Okay, so maybe not everybody knows that, but if they don't, they should. Continuing with some comments from George Cozy. There was a time when Uncle Frank bored everyone to tears with 20-year-old vacation slides. 20 years from now, we'll do the same with our photos on Drive. Well, yeah. Here's the thing. At least now we've got things more under your control. So if I create a photo, if I create a photo story, and assuming stories actually worked, which they don't, then you could go through my stories as quickly as you want, and Aunt Mabel, who actually does want to see the story, can linger over the photos. But that would assume that this thing actually worked, which it doesn't. George Cozy, Dan, Bing is default for Cortana. Hundreds of millions of people have upgraded to Windows 10. The use of Bing shot up like a rocket in the last few months. Captain Euro, Facebook was just too big to fail. That's all. People keep bringing up MySpace. In 2003, there were only 600 to 700 million internet users globally. John, you think Google Plus is difficult to get people on? I loved Wave, or at least the idea of Wave, and nobody would ever touch that. John, I've got great news for you. Wave lives. Go look at Drive. In fact, go look at Hangouts. They're both built on top of Wave technology. Wave itself was a piece of shit, but the technology behind it was pretty solid. There's a compelling reason to use Google Plus. You people are on it. George, I got news for you. People like us are also on Twitter and on Facebook, and always were. That I think has been the fallacy of Google Plus all along, is that everyone said that there was something special about the people here. I'm sorry, there isn't.
I disagree with that. I think it
Well,
was
you're
special.
wrong, Dan, but thank you for playing.
Okay, so are we done with topic
Dan,
4?
Dan, let me, you know what? Fine.
Okay,
Dan,
go ahead, go ahead.
Let me put it this way. You're an interesting guy, Dan. Okay? You are dull as dirt. compared to 25% of the people I follow on Facebook. And the people I follow on Facebook are largely my friends. You are dull.
Okay.
Okay? I mean, that's really what it boils down to. There are
Isn't
fascinating
that a fairly
people on
subjective
Facebook and
criteria?
Well, it's so here's the thing, right? I'm on Facebook, and the thing I find very, very difficult is I post mostly public on Facebook. Is how do you find people on Facebook? How come I'm not able to find people like I am here?
How do you find people on Google Plus? That's been the question we've had a long. In fact, that was
Yep.
Dan pointed out. Discovery on Google Plus was terrible. Still
It's
is.
much better. It's much better here than it is on Facebook.
See,
I either that or I'm using Facebook incorrectly.
I'll be honest. I don't know. The way I've found people and topics on Facebook are through other people. Same way I found people and topics on Google Plus. There's nothing magical. I don't see there's anything magical about Google Plus.
And I still agree with Lori that Twitter is like, standing in a hall, in an empty room with the door open, and yelling at people as they walk by.
Yeah, I just don't get Twitter at all.
But someone said that there's an easy way to discover people, and that's to turn on your location and to do like local. But I haven't tried that yet, so that'll be my next thing. Just to see
I
if
use
can
Twitter
do it.
more than I do Facebook or Google Plus combined.
I mean, I know I use Twitter a lot, especially for the news feed over there. It's really useful.
When
but in
you
terms
say-
of talking to
when-
people, that's
When you
not.
say, I'm sorry, Kevin. I'm sorry, I cut you off there, Kevin. When you say use it, though, do you mean read it or post to it?
I post.
I
little
consume
bit
more
to it.
there. What about you, Kevin?
I would post more if more of my friends were actually on Twitter. I actually know more people on Google Plus than I know on Twitter, so I'll post some stuff sometimes. But it's really almost completely a waste of my time to post stuff there. I use it way more to consume content than I do to send out content.
Kevin, do you find, as I do, that I get less interaction with local real people on Twitter?
Oh yeah.
It's in the Google Plus league on that.
Um,
Facebook, I would get much more interaction with local real people I know.
Okay,
Then-
Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus. I get the least interaction on Twitter. I would get a little bit more interaction on Facebook. Actually, Google Plus is the place where I get way more interaction with people I know. My entire family, without exception, I can reach on Google Plus, and I can't do that on Facebook.
And it's important to
Here,
note
here.
there's a difference between interaction and getting read. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're not reading. It just the interaction is less. Like I look at tons of stuff, and I don't plus one everything or what's the word on Twitter when you favorite it, right? Like Facebook
Yeah.
has a like, on Twitter you favorite it, on Google Plus you plus one it. I read, I mean, less than 1% of the things I read that I might be interested in, I don't bother or think to favorite it, right? If it's a friend or if there it is an endorsement. I usually favorite it and share it if it's really good. But there's tons of stuff I think is really good, and I don't bother to. I'm more likely on Google Plus or Facebook to plus one or like something than I am on Twitter. I'm not sure why, but do you see the same thing in your usage pattern, Kevin?
Yeah, I kind of do. For me, in general, I'll see if I know the person on Google Plus and I'm following them, I'll see a lot of their stuff. On Facebook, I'll see some of their stuff, and I sometimes wonder how much I'm seeing or not seeing, even though I like the person and would like to see more of their stuff. That feed is curated, so I see a lot of different stuff, but sometimes it feels a little bit like it's curating me out of some personal people that I would like to know more about. But on Twitter, it's almost exclusively, at least for me, a real-time notifications stream for what people might be doing on other places, and then newsfeed. That's the main thing. But it's really, 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 really useful as a newsfeed, and also if also if someone's doing something live, like. One strange part of Twitter is that that's one of the easier places. Until really, really recently, it was an easy way to find out if someone was doing something live on YouTube.
Yeah, it's the best way to get really, really the latest news, right? Like if you're
Yeah,
following a trial,
And now
what's
the-
what's the
and now the
verdict?
best and now the best way to find out when something goes live on YouTube is it shows up in your notifications on Android. I think that's awesome.
It does now.
Now, emphasis on now. I'll agree.
Yeah, it works now. It works now.
So we've got this comment from Captain Euro. No. Back in 11, you had public hangouts that everyone could join. Let me interrupt here for the moment and say you still have them, just that nobody's doing them. and even when people are doing them, you can't discover them.
Yeah.
Discoverability was
Yeah.
always a problem. It was always a problem with that, and it's more so now. But then people who shouldn't have joined them to begin with started complaining about all the, quote, Arabs and got their Google buddies to take this fun feature away. And Captain Euro was, quote, yes, I'm talking about 2 people on the panel. That wasn't why they made public hangouts a little bit more difficult to find. They made public hangouts a little bit more difficult to find because people were joining, literally waving dicks around, and then inviting 4 other of their friends to kick everyone else out of that hangout. Because hangouts aren't owned, they are public hangouts, hence the name. That was the problem with public hangouts, is that some of the strongest advocates for it got tired of the dicks, literally, always showing up.
Literally.
Literally. I mean literally in a literal sense, yes. I liked it when there were public hangouts and people could just drop in and out. I got news for you, John and Euro.
You can still do
exist.
that.
You can still do that. Go ahead, Pam.
I was just going to say, if you go to the Hangouts tab or drop down and click Hangouts on Air,
Not even Hangouts on Air. You can still,
video Hangouts,
right.
right? You can start one, but there you can't discover any that are going on right now.
Right, discover, but you know what? If you want to get people to join one of your public hangouts, post the URL. Just post the URL. Anybody can join a public hangout, given the URL. In fact, it says so on the invite screen. It says anyone with this URL can get access. And they even made that easier at some point, because I used to have a Hangout app which would give you that URL,
So right now,
and then made it obsolete.
So right now there's one called A Stream of Streams, Batman Chapman, Livestream 3-2 Edgy for You, Super Academy Chronicles, some sort of Friday night hangout from the Beercraft Nation, White Privilege Olympics, the Wolfpack Podcast, and
It goes on and on and on.
Yeah,
I'm seeing
yeah,
this section. Sad to say, this is, I think, maybe the first time I've opened this.
White Privilege Olympics?
yeah. The Clown Meat Hangout Bitch.
Okay.
2 drunk guys shooting the shit. Yeah, so yeah, there's all kinds of hangouts going on right now.
And I can't believe it doesn't have wider adoption.
Okay, so we had a bunch of spam going through the YouTube comments, which I'm not going to try to repeat. for good reason.
Did you delete them?
I can't delete. Oh, I can flag them, can't
Don't
I?
they disappear after the thing?
Yeah, but I can still flag them.
Who has
Do
that
they have
kind
to
of
do
time?
with me?
No.
No.
Oh, that's awesome. I can get rid of them. I forgot that.
All right. So while Alan is doing that, apparently Los Angeles is underwater
What?
on Google. By the way, Pam, you're drowning at the moment.
Yeah.
So there's a story here, I guess, on Google Maps. There's some. I'm not sure what they're doing here, but I guess they've got a thing where you can. I can't duplicate. I don't see a link. Does the first thing here do it? But it shows you Los Angeles underwater, and I guess you can select it. And they're wondering if this is like a climate change thing or what it is. I saw a couple stories on this. Had you seen this, anybody?
Only when I went searching for it after you posted it, and I couldn't duplicate the issue. I couldn't duplicate it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Do we even know enough to talk intelligently about this, or should we move on, or what?
Well, you're drugged, so let's move on.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoned right now. All right,
I can go back and read some more comments since we've got a ton of comments. You people
Sure.
really are chatty tonight.
Go ahead.
So I am skipping some of them here. So John says, why are pics on Drive and Google Photos? Because people asked for it. This is a case of beware what you ask for, because Google will, listen to you and implement it in the stupidest way possible.
Are they discoverable in both places, or are they actually in two places? Is it really duplicate data entry or two references?
Who the fuck knows? Honestly, nobody can figure it out.
Because as you said, there's the data, the EXIF data that's on one but not the other.
Well, no, it's on both. It's there on both, but you only have it viewable on one. If you edit a photo in one place, it doesn't show up on the other. If you delete it in one place, it does delete from the other. This is the most nonsensical implementation possible.
Yeah, Photos is by far the most confusing thing that I see on Google, because I'm not sure whether I should look at them in Google Plus or in Google Photo or in Google Photos or in Picasa
Or in Drive.
or in Drive. I don't know whether to store them in Google Photos or Google Drive, because sometimes they kind of appear in both, and I don't know where to edit them, whether in Snapseed or in Google Plus or in Google Photos or in Drive or some. I've never seen so many different ways of interacting with one item before by the same company. It's
Right.
bizarre.
I used
Even
to
by
make fun
Google
of
standards.
Microsoft. I used to make fun of Microsoft when they had products that competed against themselves. So there was a time when they had two competing operating systems. There was a time when they had two competing mail systems. But that's nothing compared to what the hell Google is doing right now, where they've got 4 different ways of dealing with pictures, and none of them work well. I said this before you joined, Kevin. If you go to any question on the help forum, they either boil down to you can't do that, or they list some of the most ridiculous workarounds that involve you jumping between the different systems.
Yeah, they have to just pick a winner. They have to pick a winner and then just go with that.
Actually get it to work.
Yeah.
That's the problem, is that, for some bizarre reason, for example, if you share photos using Hangouts, using Hangout Text Chat, the photos show up in Picasa, but not in Photos.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
It's the biggest mess ever. I mean, Picasa still has to be around to just fix just
When I spoke to a Googler, and I'm not going to say which one, when I spoke to a Googler when Photos rolled out, and we were all still optimistic about it, they expressed to me that it was great because now they were going to be able to retire Picasa. And if anything, I see Picasa needed more now than it was before, because so much is broken.
Yeah, I mean, they have to keep it because it's the one that, ironically, that's the one that actually works the most consistently over time.
But here's the thing: it doesn't even work most consistently most of the time. You can't upload using the new free storage with Picasa, for example. Only the old free storage.
Oh.
It's so broken. The whole thing is broken. John asked the question, do the Drive photos go against my storage? Well, maybe. It depends. If you upload a photo directly to Drive, yes, it counts against your storage. If you upload a photo to Photos, either the original size or the high-resolution free size, no, it doesn't count against your Drive quota. It may count against your Photos quota, however.
Even though it's free.
Well, maybe. This is actually one of the things they're trying to figure that we see a lot of on the help forum. Are people saying things like, "Hey, I'm set on free, and yet
Yep.
Google Photos has used up all of my quota."
Yep,
Why?
that's happened. It's not used up all of mine, but it's used up a goodly portion.
And
I'm like,
right. Oh, and then they say, "How can I find out which ones are using up space?" And the answer is, you can't.
can't.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do I make sure that I'm in high quality instead of original? Oh,
We don't know.
No. They have a solution for this. Download all your photos via Takeout, delete them, and re-upload them.
If you re-upload like that, will it have the metadata along with it?
Which metadata? Yes, because well, which metadata? In
Oh
general,
my
yes.
God.
However, the fact if you shared it at any point, all of those shares and links and all of that, those are gone. It's a mess. It's beyond a mess.
Troy,
Oh, go ahead.
I have not been able to find any way to discover public hangouts from mobile.
I'm not sure there is a way except for people posting it on Google+.
Yeah. So there is no Discover or any of that stuff like there is on the desktop. So that's the answer to your question. If you're even still listening.
Captain Euro, by the way, has asked us to not talk about Keep because otherwise somebody at Google who may be listening to this show might discover that it's still alive and kill it.
I'm kind of scared myself because I was one of the Google Reader users who used it to the last day, and I knew when I was using Google Reader that not a lot of people were going to end up using it in the end, but they really needed it. I need Keep. I'm an idiot for using Keep, but I still need it because it does one feature really well. Just a little digression into Keep. You can make a list in Keep as a regular note, and it actually saves it as each line as something that can have a checkbox there, and actually each line has a checkbox with it, but you can turn on a feature at any time that says show the checkboxes, and then you can turn any document that you were writing, and you can turn any note that you were writing in Keep into a list because it was a list already. And so you can turn it into something that you can check off. And that's a really useful feature for me. So I use that feature a lot. I just haven't, I probably need to look around and see if there's another app or some kind of program that does that kind of feature, but I haven't seen it. So I use that a lot. Anyways.
Some more comments. From Troy, the issue most have is finding items shared with them. For example, Drive items shared as links don't show in the shared with me last I checked. Have you ever experienced this? Is shared with me still called shared with me, or has it been renamed to incoming or something else again, or renamed again? I don't remember anymore. But yeah, I've always had issues with that. And that's been a perpetual problem. Captain Euro, Chrome apps, glorified links. From George, what was magical about Google Plus was that in the very beginning it attracted geeks and artists. That set the tone, and we're still coasting on that, but the ice is thinning. And I guess this was my problem with it back then, is that I already knew people like that. I knew lots of people like that. I've acquired lots of people like that. Some of them started as my friends, and some of them I made my friends. That's nothing that's unique to Google Plus. In fact, one of the people that I first met on Google Plus, I did some photo walks with them, and during one photo walk I was talking with them, and they said, the photo community on Facebook is really good, and they're doing some things, that we're not even talking about on Google Plus. So, and that was a shock to me that there was a huge photo community on Facebook, because I hadn't looked for them there. But you know what? I didn't look for them on Google Plus either. Somebody introduced me to them. And that somebody is a friend of mine who's only on Facebook these days. John comments that he searches Twitter and reads it mostly. George always hated Hangouts. Just wasn't his thing. Hates the camera. Camera hates him. But George, we love you.
Camera doesn't hate him.
He's lying.
He might hate the camera.
Are you able to find public photos? We already discussed that. Are the pics free on Photos and charged against storage on Drive? That's a complicated answer, but yes, everything, all pictures loaded on Drive are charged no matter their size. Pics on Photos are free depending on how they're loaded into Photos. If they're loaded in what's called high quality, they're always free. If they're loaded with what's called original quality, they always are charged for space. They auto go into Drive and Photos. Well, but that's much more complicated. Although they look like they end up on both, trying to manipulate them on both fails. Albums don't cross over, for example. Edits don't cross over. Deletes do cross over for no obvious reason. And in fact, they posted a help post on this when the help community started. And it said, what happens if I delete my file or delete my photo? And the answer was, if you delete it on Photos, then it will also be deleted on Drive. If you delete it on Drive, then the photo will also be deleted from Photos. Except they said it more convoluted, and I'm sitting there going, so it's deleted from both? What? It's convoluted crap. George asked me, have the Google geeks somehow been infected with a sort of tunnel vision? I mean, in some ways, yes. In some ways, they are sold on their own. They do have their delusions of self-grandeur. I will readily admit that. Sometimes it's justified. With Photos, it's not. So I do think they've got a sort of tunnel vision there that they don't. One of the things that actually we see a lot of when products come out is they always ask for very specific use cases. And I think they kind of miss the fact that coming up with specific solutions like that, they end up missing the general case in a lot of ways. We saw this with collections. We saw this with the +1 notifications showing up. Very, very narrow specific use case. People complained about it. They introduced a very, very narrow partial solution. They're not looking at the big picture in these cases. Now, mind you, I think there are some products of theirs that do look at the big picture. I think YouTube used to look at the big picture, and recently I think they got way too narrow in their latest round of changes, which still piss me off. I think Google Plus and Google Photos have always, at least for the past 4 years, been very, very narrow-minded. Google Apps, however, Google Drive, they're not. I think they're very, very broad-focused. They have the big picture. Maps has the big picture. Google Cloud Engines, they sort of have the big picture. I think they're mostly playing a game of catch-up still, though. So yeah, I mean, there are a number of products where they have the big picture. They're just not pulling it off.
Yeah, Alan, you've said it a couple of times, but I want to definitely reiterate on that. Google Drive really does have a good idea of the big picture, and I wish they would just win on terms of just storing things in terms of photos.
Well,
because
here's the problem. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do too. I think that if you do that though, the problem is Photos has in some ways has some really, really good concepts behind it. The fact that you've got a photo library and you're not pulling stuff out of the library and putting it into albums, and you can have a single photo in multiple different albums, and you can have some of these albums automatically generated for you. Those are all, and I referred to those as virtual albums when we talked about it a few years back. Those are all good things. And although Drive can do that, people will look at them in Drive and get confused because Drive has hidden some of their features. So although, for example, you can create a file in Drive, and it can exist, the exact same file can exist in multiple folders, and you can remove it from one folder. You can change it in one folder, and it will change in all of them because it's the same file. In the Unix world, we call this a link. Although Drive supports that, they've hidden the feature. So people who are not used to it, who are used to just plain old hierarchical file systems, won't get it. And it will confuse them. And that's why I hesitate to say, hey, if they just dumped all the photos right into Drive and just served it right out of Drive, it would be a panacea. Because I don't think it would be. I think it would be more confusing in some ways.
Well, yeah, it's more confusing, which is why they did it anyway.
Well, the problem
added that tab.
The problem, that's the thing. That tab doesn't do any of that. I mean, what they ended up doing is even more confusing, and that's because people said, I want to see my photos in Drive. This is really a case of, be careful what you wish for, because Google will do it in the stupidest way possible, and that's exactly what they did. Now, I'm hoping to take advantage of this, but there's only so much that anybody can do. Because eventually Google is going to make a fortune on cloud storage. It's not too far off for regular users. I think they're going to make a decent chunk of change, and they're well into doing so, and I think that's what... But here's the thing. Here's where they've got two competing products again. Their cloud storage solutions have some really, really brilliant things. You can have it online and active constantly. You can have it in nearline, so we're going to charge less for it, but it's going to, we're going to charge you to access it, but charge you less to store it. And offline, which is we're going to charge you even less just to keep it there. That's great. Unfortunately, there's also Drive. And the two sides of the world don't meet. And if they did, which is what Amazon has done, if they did, that would be brilliant. But they didn't do that. Keep seemed too simple for me. But Google Plus made us believe that their photos were the best. Yeah, they tricked us at I/O. And I'm going to say this. And it's especially because I was a massive advocate of photos. And I still am to some extent. There are some brilliant, brilliant things to photos. And maybe in 2 years, after the next rewrite, we'll achieve some of them. But right now, the only really brilliant thing that they did was expose the AI engine a little bit more. They then went and fixed the scrolling, which was a serious... I mean, we got to remember, Google Plus Photos was crap. Google Plus Photos had serious, serious problems in terms of the library, in terms of organization, in terms of a lot of things. and they fixed some of that. But they also then went and broke 5 other things. I think within Google Drive, you're now able to change the view and sort by file size to determine what is using your drive storage. That's true, Troy. Unfortunately, photos that are uploaded with Photos all report as having 0 file size, as using up no space in Drive, which makes it really tough to find which ones are. But yes, you can find which files in Drive are actually taking up space. Drive is serious competition, Microsoft and its Office. They're moving those to the cloud, and people are used to Office. And George is right. Office 365 is a major powerhouse. And since the fact that it's bundled with Azure, their Azure cloud offering, it's nothing to sneeze at. However, I think people are also not comfortable. One of the things that people discovered is that Google's offering is a lot cheaper than Microsoft's offering, and in a lot of ways, it works a lot better. Office 365 is, however, improving. It used to be that you still needed a local client to use Office 365. Not as necessary anymore. In fact, I think it even works on Chrome now, which is pretty amazing. I think we finally caught up on the comments. Dan, back to you. What's our next story?
Okay.
Maybe we're done tonight.
I've died of old age, actually. All right. So next is Google. Oh, God. Google releases a new Google Wallet app, and Android Pay is coming shortly. And we have 3 links.
And on this note, we have a comment from Sai saying photos should only be accessed from Google Wallet, and he's scratched that out and written in Android Pay. So yeah,
So
here's really exciting news. Just to simplify Google Wallet, they've now split it up into 2 apps, Android Pay and Google Wallet, because it's really obvious. Wait, did I get that right? Yes, Android Pay and Google Wallet, because it's really obvious as all shit what the hell these 2 products are going to do now. So no longer can I say that they have Google Wallet, Google Wallet, Google Wallet, Google Wallet, Google Wallet, and Google Wallet. They now have Google Wallet, Google Wallet, Google Wallet, Google Wallet, Android Pay, and Android Pay.
Question, Alan. We all have, like, in my wallet, I've got my cards, okay? I got my various debit cards. People have credit cards, whatever you have. Why doesn't Visa just do their own, and I can use this card without a third party in the mix?
They did.
What happened?
That was the company formerly known as ISIS, and Google bought them.
Obviously, an unfortunate name choice in retrospect.
Right. They renamed themselves before they got bought.
So
but they did. They offered it, but nobody wanted. Basically, it had very little support.
I mean, I would like the convenience of not having, like, if I go into a store, I got to bring my wallet so I can use my debit card. I'm going to bring my phone, so that's 2 things. It would be convenient if I could just bring my phone. And the phone security is getting better and better. We're seeing, like, the fingerprint scanners and things like that. So it would be very difficult for someone to pick up my phone and use it to even access it. Anything beyond, like, the camera,
Well, you can, and that's what Android Pay is going to be offering.
But I know I tried the Apple Pay, and it said neither one of my debit cards would work with it. So I abandoned it. I've tried Android or Google Wallet, I guess, initially, and it didn't work. I forget why.
You couldn't find any retailer that supported it.
I think Radio Shack supported it for all the things we buy at Radio Shack. It's just, I see in Asia, this is a big deal, right?
I found lots of places that supported Google Wallet. My problem was that it was more convenient for me to pull out a credit card and swipe it.
How come we're seeing this in Asia?
Swipe it and punch in 4 numbers than it was to deal with it on my phone.
Is it accurate that in Asia this is a big thing, that people are using their phone to pay for things? And what are they doing right that we're not doing?
Well, they've been doing it for 10 years.
I guess the list of things Asia's doing right that we're not doing right is lengthy. Be a whole new
and I'm
program
not sure
topic.
they're actually doing it right. One of the things, though, to remember is that Europe and Asia have been using more sophisticated credit cards than we have for a decade. So they had the infrastructure in place to deal with at least some of this.
Okay.
But again, it goes back to, I'm not convinced that we're going to see massive adoption.
I don't think we're going to see. I mean, I know, like, I saw when Walmart announced they were going to do self-checkouts nationwide. They said they were not going to, and we talked about this on the show, so this is within the last 3 or 4 years, whatever, that they said they were not going to have Google Wallet, and Apple Pay didn't exist at the time, in their machines they're going to use. In the end, if you can't use it, what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, in general, it's kind of scratching an itch that America doesn't really have. I've tried. I've been able to use Google Wallet on some like vending machines and some stores in the past, and it was a mediocre experience, and so I ended up kind of abandoning use of it. But I would definitely pick it up again if it worked really smoothly, and it looks like it will. But I just need to find stores that will be willing to adopt it and promote it, and in terms of the people who work there.
Alan pointed out that the key thing is it's convenience. It's more convenient to pull your credit card or debit card out. The credit card's a different argument because then you're not paying for it, right? You're incurring a debt. But the debit card, it's more convenient for me to use that at the gas pump than walk in the gas station and use cash and have to change in my pocket. It's a pain in the ass. But if this mobile stuff is less widely accepted and more difficult or cumbersome to use, then I would rather just use the debit card. But then, and also there's the issue of security with the big Target, which was the most famous breach. But you worry like about your information being in multiple places. You're putting so much trust in these companies and these platforms, and then there's a breach, and it's this hassle. Even though, and I've had my debit card information taken twice in a span of a week, and I lost. I mean, I got ripped off in one case, but I got reimbursed. But it's still a hassle, And if your identity is straight up and stolen, it's a huge hassle, and the burden of proof is often on you, especially if it's someone you knew who did it. If it's a stranger, it's a nightmare. I mean, it was a nightmare. My girlfriend had it happen to her, and it was a nightmare. So I don't know. I don't. Are we going to see this in a year or two? This is going to be a thing. I mean, people are going to be like, "Let me pay with my Samsung." And in there Samsung Pay? I mean, is that
Yeah, there is.
Okay, but this is taking a serious side swipe at that. One of the things that
was that a pun?
No. One of the things that Google, what is it called? Android Pay does is it's no longer carrier locked, and it's no longer device locked. It used to be that there were specific devices that Google Wallet couldn't run on, and this removes almost all of those restrictions.
I'm still surprised there's not a Visa Pay and a MasterCard Pay.
I told you there was.
I know,
they
but
capitulated.
It was a. I don't know.
They capitulated because they weren't getting any traction at all either.
So we still don't know why.
We still don't know why it wasn't getting any traction.
Why is this work? I mean, I still don't have an affirmative reason why this is a big, convenient, popular thing in other countries and not here.
Well, maybe George can explain further. Maybe George can join. He commented, "I'm paying for groceries with NFC every week." And I'll be honest, I've used NFC. I've tried to. There was a time when I was doing everything very dedicatedly with Google Wallet, and it's just more of an inconvenience. Maybe if U.S. credit cards and debit cards were more of a pain to use, I would use my phone more. But they're not. They're too easy.
Hey, do you think with the new chip and pin that's coming in, that might actually help? Android Pay?
I commented on this in chat. It would if we were actually implementing chip and pin.
Well, true, because you can
But
still
because our credit card companies are such dumb shits that they can't figure out that in order to have chip and pin, you need a pin, we seem to have kind of forgotten that part. So instead of chip and pin, we have chip and signature? Who the fuck cares? That gives you no fucking security whatsoever.
You used to have a signature to do it. I remember when I was a kid, I took my aunt's credit card to buy something at the store, and I had to sign her name, right? And then if I'm at the gas pump, if I'm buying $60, I have to put my PIN in before it'll let me pump my gas. But if I go to McDonald's and get a cup of coffee or an Egg McMuffin, I swipe the card, and like half a second later, approved, done, no PIN needed, even though it's a debit card. It could not be more convenient. It's far more it's more convenient to pull my credit card out or my debit card and swipe it in the McDonald's thing than it is to even light up my phone, let alone run the app and do the thing and all that.
Exactly. Exactly.
Not that it's secure, but it works and it's fast, and that's what people are about, you know. Okay, so we're all excited about the next big thing.
So here's some more further comments. My cards don't work on Apple Pay either. Stores by me say we accept Apple Pay and Android Pay, but not for me. Now I'm having increasing luck getting it to work, but it's still slow. It's still faster for me to use a card. I use my Google Wallet card a lot. Well, okay, that is absolutely no advantage over other cards, but excellent. And you'll still be able to use your Google Wallet card for any balances that are currently on your Google Wallet card. I use my Google Wallet app to use my debit card, but with a virtual credit card number. And I love the token-based NFC for security over any credit card. But that's the thing, Troy. The new credit cards and the credit cards in Europe have that security in them. That's what the whole chip part of chip and pin is. And that chip is just as secure as the NFC. The virtual card, the virtual card number is in some ways more secure, and it has some problems. It's not perfect. But okay, from George, my bank card has a chip in it. I wave it across the checkout, it goes beep, and I'm done. If the bill is more than 25 euros, I have to enter the PIN. I could also use a phone instead of the card. The whole thing's incredibly convenient. The times that I've tried using my phone, it has been incredibly inconvenient. I tap the phone, I wait for it to do something because it doesn't do, it's not a swipe and done. So I have to wait for it to acknowledge. Then I have to enter in the PIN to unlock it, and then maybe I have to enter in I have to swipe my unlock. Then I have to enter in my PIN. Okay. Then, for some bizarre reason, on some terminals, I have to enter in the PIN again on the terminal, because that makes all sorts of fucking sense. I mean, in theory, I could see how it might be better, but I still don't see how it's any faster than what George just described in swiping his PIN, his card. I don't see how it's ever going to be more convenient.
I also sometimes avoid it to make sure that I don't feel like a weirdo from the person behind the counter.
I'm wearing my glass, so that's not a problem here. Pam.
Does this process have the same protections that a credit card has?
It actually, in some ways, has more. You mean in terms of legal protections?
Yes, $50 is the maximum liability for Visa that I'm aware of.
Yes, it does. And in fact, one of the advantages of using this method is that for stores that don't switch to the new chip security, the store will eventually be responsible for any fraud, as opposed to the credit card company responsible for any fraud.
But are they now? I mean, Target just had a multi-million-dollar settlement, a very large multi-million-dollar settlement with Visa over that break-in.
Well, that's
breach.
because Well, that's because they were doing unauthorized things with the data now.
Right, right. Target breached the security protocol, right?
Right. Target was doing things they weren't supposed to be doing.
Because they were
And
trying to
that's why
get
they got
data to
involved.
manipulate it to send you targeted mails, or they just didn't. They were
No,
incompetent.
no, they were just lazy. They were just lazy.
They were lazy. They weren't updating the systems. They were storing credit card information for longer than they needed to.
Mhm.
They were storing a whole bunch of information that they shouldn't have been storing in the first place. And it wasn't for their profiling. It was because they were just, they had a database.
I have a storing data longer than they needed to question for you guys. It's totally unrelated to this. I just wanted to throw it out there. Can I ask it real quick, or is this a good transition point?
Yeah, sure.
I know you are varying degrees of privacy freaks. So let me get your opinion on this. When they had it was in the news, those license plate scanners, when they had the shooting of the WDBJ reporters, the state trooper, who I know very well, she's a fixture here in Front Royal, Trooper Neff. She's a little tiny thing, like 5 feet tall. And she was in her cruiser, and they gave the license plate number of the former reporter who had shot the two reporters, or the reporter, the cameraman, and the guest who's being interviewed. And there was this thing about whether the state police should use these license plate scanners, and we're seeing them all over the place. And tow companies use them. I know somebody who has one, and she'll go through Walmart, and if she gets a ping that the car's out to be towed, that she'll call her relative who has a tow company, and they'll come repossess the car from Walmart. So I think the ACLU is suing or raising a stink or whatever. So on the one hand, like, okay, this was cool that she knew that within 3 minutes this guy had passed her, and so they were able to apprehend him before he could do more harm. Other people are saying that this isn't a reason. This is gathering data without any kind of warrant. But and then back to the other side of the coin is, do you have a reasonable expectation of privacy of your license plate number when you're in public? It's not like a camera in your bedroom. So what do you have any thoughts on this whole issue of these license plate scanners, and in the
Well,
case
first,
and the state, just last thing, and then Pam, they delete the data after 24 hours, so it's only in there for a short period. Like,
Are you sure they delete the data after 24
well,
hours?
they claim that, so
Well,
I'm
here's
not
the thing.
sure. I mean,
Here's the thing. City of Boston claimed that as well. And just last week, it was discovered that not only don't they delete the data after 24 hours, but they kind of leave it sitting on a website so that anybody can download it.
oh wow, that's a fail. Pam, what were you gonna say?
You think? I believe it was the Boston Globe that found it.
Yikes, Pam. Is Pam-
license plate numbers. No, I'm trying.
Oh, okay.
So technically, license plate numbers are public information because they're pasted to your car.
It's
drives
also
around the
public.
public.
It's government
what-
property. The license plate is owned by the government, not you, right?
Correct. The privacy issue comes when that license plate is connected to your address or phone number or name, that the DMV information that is attached to
The
that.
owner of the vehicle, not necessarily the driver.
The owner of the vehicle, not necessarily the driver. So if the car is involved in some kind of illegal activity like murder or theft, and not paying your car bill is theft, right? So the tow companies actually have an absolute right to try and find that car.
Also, we're talking
repo
about what the
company.
government collects, right? Not that's a whole separate issue of tow company, a private person, or me taking photographs on the interstate of passing vehicles. That's a whole different argument about what the government can do.
Well, so here in California, we have this thing called Fast Track. So all of our HOV, high occupancy vehicle, HOV lanes have these camera things above the lanes, and as the cars go by, they take pictures of your license plate, and it's illegal to try and block those pictures from happening, because you get charged. You'll get a letter in the mail, or you actually have 48 hours to log in to Fast Track and pay your toll for these HOV lanes. So these pictures happen all the time. Boston has a actually New Jersey has a turnpike, and as you go through those every single vehicle has those license plate pictures taken, and that information is used to either get payment or to somehow track or whatever they're doing drivers. And that's been in place for years and years and years, and the ACLU hasn't said squat tola.
Yeah, I don't,
So I'm not sure why now all of a sudden it's a big deal. But yeah, car registration is, I don't understand the right for privacy when it comes to that sort of thing, except for in Alan's case, if that's actually linked to someone's house, name, house, address, or whatever, that gives people who may not have your best interests at heart the ability to find you. That's a little bit different.
I don't
You
agree
know
with
what I
that,
mean?
Pam. I think this is, I mean, the only reason it would come to is that it's, first of all, the license plate is public property. I mean, it's the government's property. We know that because in Virginia, they just said we're not going to allow the Confederate flag anymore, and that was one of the license plates you could get, one of like 100 and something, and or more, perhaps more, but there's a lot of different ones. And they said you actually had to give it back, and they would issue another one. You cannot display the Confederate flag license plate because it's considered state property. That doesn't mean you can't have a big Confederate flag bumper sticker right next to it, but on the actual license plate that is Commonwealth of Virginia property, they're recalling those. So the whole purpose of a license plate is so that any government official can identify that vehicle. It's a distinguishing feature, so that they can say, okay, this is Dan McDermott's, you know, Honda, or Pam's Honda, whatever it is. And any police officer can call you in, right? Okay, you know, this is the license plate number. Is this okay or stolen or whatever? And that would be on the radio recording potentially forever. So but that would be a random or a targeted thing where the police officer, for whatever reason, calls you in and gets your license plate number, or calls your license plate number in. This is bulk, right? This is like a camera that's scanning every single one in the same way that like a speed camera would do. And they're freaking. I don't have a problem with it because I don't think you have any expectation of privacy when you're driving on a public road. When I say you don't have any expectation of privacy as far as your license plate being publicly visible, that's the purpose of a license plate, right?
Absolutely, and it's illegal to block that visibility. But the problem comes when there is the ability to then marry that license plate to a person and an address. Then there could be privacy issues.
So Dan, can I paint a slightly theoretical, slightly hypothetical scenario?
Give me worst case.
Okay. So I've seen you get out of your car at work or at the supermarket, okay? From this, I now can associate you with a license plate with reasonable certainty.
You could even use the example of the shooter of the news crew.
Stop.
Right?
Stop. I can now associate this with you with reasonable certainty.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Now, when I say I mean me as a private citizen. Me as somebody who is stalking you. Okay. So now I have, since this is now public information, I now have access to a database which reports where that license plate has been 24/7.
Where are we saying this is public information? This is the state. I think it's actually in the car. I don't even know if it's. I think
Well,
it's.
but
It may
Dan,
only be retained in the vehicle in that actual unit, not even shared in a state database. It just said
well,
every 24 hours it erases, and
but why not?
I could be. I mean, but I know
I mean,
that
here's the thing.
this is
If
a
I've got
$400
if I've
thing.
got a
These
license
things are
plate
$300 to
scanner,
$400, and
Dan,
she had.
Dan, listen.
Okay,
listen
go
to
ahead.
me.
Go ahead.
If there's a license plate scanner anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that scanner can store its data somewhere. And you've just said, since there is no reasonable expectation of privacy, it's fine to record this information and store it. So now, every intersection that has a traffic light can have one of these and can be recording every single car that goes through every single intersection at every single time of day.
Theoretically correct. That certainly is possible. Yes.
Not just theoretically.
I mean,
This
yeah,
is
that's
real.
possible. They could do that if the locale
No,
approved and
they
paid for that.
they are doing that, Dan.
Every red light we have has a
fast
camera.
track. If I do fast track from Escondido to San Diego, which a good number of people actually drive that distance every single day commuting, and there are two people in the car, and I do the HOV lane, fast track will track my license plate from the time I enter those HOV lanes in Escondido all the way down to San Diego, right? Every single day.
And
Right.
remember, and Dan, you asked for worst case scenario, and I'm giving it to you.
Yeah, yeah.
So now here's the fact that we've got this data being collected, and now I, as you know, somebody who's just sitting at my desk, know exactly where you are all day.
Well, but okay.
So I know when your house is empty.
But you're not talking about what I mean, you're carrying it. You're assuming that all these are connected and they're in some public shared place. That's not what I'm talking about. These are cameras. I mean, they're I think $300 or $400, and I don't know that they're even shared with the state because Trooper Neff had to actually manually put in the license plate number into her machine, and then it said that 3 minutes earlier that had been tagged, it had passed her. So if it were in a publicly shared thing, she wouldn't have had to put it in there herself. The state would have told her, "Hey, by the way, this car just passed you," right? So
Okay,
this
so
is
so your
more
technology,
rudimentary tech
you know,
than
you're
you're
old.
suggesting.
What I'm saying is the technology to do that is all trivial, and if you're comfortable
Sure.
with it not all being networked, but you're not comfortable with it being networked, ask yourself why not.
I mean, I don't like red light cameras because I might get a ticket, right? I know that the odds are greater if there was a red light or a speed camera. I mean, I never run red lights, but if there was a speed camera at every single light and that I ever go through, the odds are that I would get more tickets than I currently get, which is none, right? Because sometimes you're not paying attention. All of a sudden, like, oh, gee, I'm going 11 over. Let me slow down. So naturally, a machine that's checking every single person, it's like having a cop at every single intersection. Clearly, there would be more tickets issued, and a cop can only pull over one person at a time, in general, whereas a red light camera can zing every single person going through the intersection. So it's far more efficient. So we're dealing about the efficiency of the data collection rather than, like I said, any cop can call your license plate number in. And that would actually be retained on a recording, whereas this is
Right.
24 hours expunged.
So what Alan is saying is that if this information goes out over any kind of web, any kind of Wi-Fi, any kind of transmission outside of its collection point,
Mm-hmm.
there is a very real danger that that information can be used to violate someone's privacy.
Correct. For example,
well,
let's
I
say that
hesitate
there
to
was
say,
some girl I'm stalking and she has a vanity tag and I see her and she works at Starbucks and I go there every day and she's hot and I'm crazy and I like her and her vanity tag is coffee gal or whatever iteration, right? If I were able to go to some database and find out all of the intersections that she traveled to and from work and home, then I would realize where she lives, right? I
well,
could
but
Or at least
Pam,
get
Pam,
closer.
so any number of scenarios that are, if someone
Pam, Pam, here's the problem. Dan could say that no, it's not violating somebody else's privacy any more than it was before, because if I wanted to before, I could follow the car. I mean, I could physically get in a car and tail her. We've gotten all sorts of, spy stories based around that. What I'm saying
Sure.
is, what is the logical difference between that and being able to do that from the comfort of my desk?
that's a different thing, and I see what you're
No, there's
saying,
not.
but there's a
And that's the
difference
problem.
between a central collective of this data that's retained and certainly publicly accessible. That's a whole different thing. Like in Virginia, for example, you used to be able to go to the DMV and say, here's a license plate number, whose car is this, and they would tell you, and then I think there was a fee like $25, and now I think they won't tell you that information anymore. What I'm talking about in the case of Virginia, what they say is that I think this information is only kept on that actual computer in the car, and she had to punch it in, and then it told her it's no different than if on the radio they said we're looking for ABC 123 license plate, and she's kind of it's a red Taurus, and she's kind of looking and sees a red car and looks at the license plate. It's not doing anything different than that, except it's doing it more efficiently because it's a machine checking every license plate, and it only works like within 20 feet of the vehicle. So you'd have to either she would have, it doesn't even work across the interstate. It's not even that far. So I see. I mean, you're in your Orwellian version, yeah. I could see an issue, but in this case, I don't see where there's a problem. It just seems more efficient way of doing what they've been doing for 100 years.
Does anyone know the ACLU's actual argument?
It's a warrantless capturing of data, and it's retained, and it's metadata, and Edward Snowden.
Lord have mercy. I mean, anytime I walk into a bank, anytime I walk into Walmart, anytime I walk into Target, anytime I walk into the frickin' liquor store,
Yeah, I mean, they could go
my
to London.
data, my pictures is captured and kept for however long. Sometimes it's 30 days.
I'd love to see
You
these
know?
guys in a London tube station just stop and look around at all the cameras on you. Oh my God! In Europe, it's far more, video surveillance going on.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, are we good?
I was looking at
ahead,
some
Kevin.
ACL. I was looking at some ACLU information. Their main complaint is storage of the data, retaining it. That's their main issue. I mean, they have other issues, but that's their main one.
But that happens at the liquor store. My husband works at a transit center where they have a control center. You should see this thing. It looks like it looks like a CSI episode. You walk in and there's monitors everywhere, recording devices everywhere. They have cameras at every single train station and up and down the coast and going into Escondido, and they film that stuff and they keep it, just in case something happens and the police department wants to view the tape, or they have catch a crime on camera or whatever. They can download that bit of tape or whatever and turn it over to the authorities. So the fact that the ACLU actually still believes that there is such thing as privacy in any public arena. I go to work. There's cameras inside my job, in the lobby, outside, in the parking lot. They watch me picking my nose on my break every single day. I'm just not understanding what what the issue is. And that
I mean,
data is stored.
I think that it's a compromise. I mean, obviously, we all recognize that if there's an Amber Alert out, or in the case of the WDBJ shooter, they were able to pull him over, and he ended up, shooting himself before he could kill any more people. That it's a good thing. It could potentially be abused in the situation that Alan points out, but I think the locally based, where it's just a simple $300 thing that's not connected to any database. It just retains it for 24 hours, and each officer has to actually punch in the thing, and then they'll get a beep if they've seen it in the last 24 hours. It'll tell them, yeah, 40 minutes ago this car passed you, or there's no sign of it, or hey, it's passing you right now. I think that that's a reasonable combination, because it's no different than the police officer being on the lookout for someone and, noticing it or calling in the number to inquire. So, are we good on this?
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Next is 3 new potential cities for Google Fiber. One is fairly local. I think it's in Kentucky, 2 in California. And I'm
When
seeing,
you say local, what do you mean local? Local to who?
There are two
East-
others local to you.
East Coast. There are 2 local to California, to Pam's crazy state that, of course, it's a moot point since she's all but drowning, according to The Verge.
Actually, Cy actually lives in the city of San Diego.
So Cy could comment even
Cy
faster
could-
on our program if he had gigabit.
I already told him if Google Fiber comes to San Diego and he's within the area, I'm moving in with them.
Yeah, it's coming to Raleigh, Durham, or something. I knew a guy from Raleigh, and they're real protective. It's a competitive thing, and I once called it Durham Raleigh just to troll him, and he got really mad.
That's actually pretty impressive. There's an awful lot of biotech companies in Raleigh, Durham. That's a pretty affluent area.
It's a high tech, affluent area, absolutely. And I guess we talked about last week or the week before. Comcast says that they have technology that will allow them to offer gigabit or better, and they intend to offer it. And it ain't going to be $50 a month, but they're going to offer it to their entire nationwide area within less than 3 years, potentially less than 2, which would be huge. It'd be great if there was competition. And I think I forget. I think 1/3 of the people have only one provider, 1/3 have 2, and 1/3 have 3 or more options for internet. But you're probably including shitty DSL from the phone company in that equation. Like here, there's 2 options. There's Comcast or DSL. One is 50 megabits down. One is 3. So it's not really 2 competitors, in my opinion. But I haven't talked to anybody who has Google Fiber. Is it all that? I mean, and I guess AT&T has UVerse, and Verizon Fios is not that fast, but in the same league. Is it? Are there any congestion or choke points, or is it really reliable, badass internet? Does anyone know?
I think a lot of people are hitting the problem of just that last mile, just getting the actual fiber lines getting into the homes itself.
Yep.
I know that's an issue here. I literally had I'm in Cincinnati right now, and the place where I'm at technically could get fiber speed, but the actual buildings themselves are not wired with the fiber, and so all you can get is whatever speed you can get out of the phone lines. So just not it's there on the street. It's not available in the actual building itself. So that's what a lot of people are going to have. Even if you build out fiber, you have to have some sort of incentive or push to get actual buildings wired up with this stuff.
Yeah. So I have Fios, right? And that is a fiber, right? It's fiber optics that goes up to, I think, the box across the street. And then from there into the house, it's coax. So whatever the limitations
Is
are,
it actual coax?
it is actual coax. I screw the freaking thing into my cable router.
Okay, because my FiOS has my FiOS has fiber up to the DMARC point outside my house, literally outside my house,
Yeah.
and a Cat5e cable running from the DMARC point
Let me see.
inside the house.
Let me see. Let me look up Cat5e.
It looks like a big telephone plug. It's not coax. I do actually. That's not true. I also have a coax coming from that box, but that only provides the video.
Oh, that might be. Well, what I plug into the router is I screw the coax.
That's certainly possible, but that seems kind of fishy. Although what I plug into my router is the Cat5e plug, so it's not. As long as it gets to the DMARC point, fiber to the DMARC point, that's fiber to the home. That's
And
fiber
can't
to the
you-
premises.
Alan, can't coax can do some blisteringly fast speeds. It just doesn't have the distance advantage. I mean, fiber can go across the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, properly
be super
terminated
fast.
coax can do the speeds. The other big problem with it is the provisioning of it. Provisioning of broadband coax is currently more provisioned for down than up, while provisioning for fiber tends to be equal in both directions. But that's a provisioning issue than a technical issue of the wire itself.
And it sucks for us, as 4K becomes a thing and you're trying to upload your 4K video, it takes forever on some of these coax connections.
I'm kind of fascinated that Google Fiber is going to attempt those places in California. I mean, hitting San Diego, that's really interesting.
In what way? Because it's big, or
Yeah, because it's big. Yeah, a lot of people want to be there.
I think it's great. And what's it going to be called? Because they're branching it off into a separate entity if they haven't already, under Alphabet. Is it going to still be called Google Fiber?
Oh.
Not announced yet.
Alphaber?
I almost guarantee you will see almost nothing branded with Alphabet.
I hope. Yeah, be kind of hard to trademark that anyway.
No, it would be pretty easy to trademark it.
Is the soup trademarked? Is that a Campbell's trademark?
No, because other companies besides Campbell's offer Alphabet soup.
Do we know that? Do they really?
Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so next, report: Apple takes space in Russian data center to comply with data location law. I'm guessing this is a post-Edward Snowden era thing, Alan, right?
Oh no, this is just a Putin thing. This is just a Putin wanting to make sure that his secret, his the equivalent of his NSA has access to everyone's data.
Putin on the Ritz.
The interesting part of this is more how many countries force this kind of thing, and it includes Germany has similar laws as well. And more Google and other companies are going to have to put in local data centers, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does have some interesting implications to it.
I mean, they all do this. I mean, China comes to mind, right? They would any of the Arab
China's got other-
countries.
China's got other issues, but
Is there any difference in this and an Indian McDonald's not selling beef? They have mutton burgers. I'm streaming again. Yeah, we went off. I'm not sure what happened, but I think we're streaming. Yeah, we lost it for a few. I lost you guys, and maybe my internet went out. But I think we're
I
back
don't know,
now.
but it's 8. It's almost 9 o'clock, and I'm getting tired, so I'm gonna go.
Yeah, I'm stoned. and I'm pretty tired.
So my Google Plus week was busy, really busy and hot. It's humid,
What's your 9/11
and
story,
I'm
Pam?
miserable.
Where were
My
you?
9/11 story.
Yeah, where were you with that kind of thing? We should
Um,
hit that right.
I got up to go to work, and so you've never met my husband, but um, he's quiet normally, and he was screaming at me to come out of the bedroom, and so I came out of the bedroom, and he was in the living room watching the news, and it was just after 6, and he's like, "Look at this shit," and the first plane had hit the World Trade Center, and I got goosebumps all over my body, and I'm just standing there. I'm like, "Holy crap! How did that happen?" And we were just watching, and all of a sudden, the second plane hit, and you knew what happened, and